Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we are revisiting the red-black Rowan Storm archetype, which is a deck I've covered in the past, but we've gotten a lot of upgrades in these last few years, mainly in the mana base with the addition of the fetch lanes and the modal dual-face lanes that allow us to pay 3 life, and those are huge additions to enable our commander. Rowan Scion of War is a 3 mana 4/2 with Menace, can tap it, and then now spells we cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life we've lost this turn. So that's going to lock in for the remainder of the turn, so losing additional life is not going to help. But with all the fetch lanes and modal dual face lanes in the mana base, we can pretty easily enable Rowan, at least giving us a 3 mana discount. And then with the 3 mana discount, we can start storming off, drawing lots of cards, and setting up all sorts of storm combo kills, which are quite satisfying. So that's kind of the main idea behind this deck. Deploy our commander, sometimes we can give it haste right away so it can immediately give our spells a discount, otherwise wait to untap and then hopefully go off from there. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories. We've got a small ramp section. Of course, we don't need a ton of ramp when our commander already gives our spells a discount, but it can be helpful to sometimes play out Rowan on turn 2 already, or have a backup plan in case it gets removed, so it's easier to redeploy. Then we've got a lot of black spells mostly that allow us to pay life or lose life, and those can be removal spells or card draw spells, so those can also help set up the discount on Rowan if we don't have a land to set it up instead, and they're still fine to cast in a normal game, or once we get the discount, they can also heavily benefit from it. And then we've got our red storm cards, which are here to draw cards, make treasures, generate additional mana whenever we cast a spell, so these make it easy to keep chaining together more and more spells, and especially with a mana discount from Rowan, we can then hopefully combo off in one big turn. And then finally we've got our finishers, and these are the cards that will typically end the game, and these include some tutor effects that can find or storm cards, as well as some X spells that we can maybe cast thanks to the discount from Rowan to just end the game on the spot. We've got a few planeswalkers in here as well. And then our miscellaneous section has a few efficient removal spells, some discard spells to take away opposing removal from the opponent, so we can safely resolve our commander. Ways to give it haste can also come in handy. And then our lands also include a lot of ways to pay life, so we can set up our commander's discount in the first place, and these include deserts such as Ifnir Deadlands or Ramunap Ruins. There's more ways to pay 1 life with Mount Doom or Sulphur Springs each turn. Of course, we're going to be running Ancient Tomb, which can make 2 mana at the cost of 2 life. And then we've got a whole host of fetch lanes, which can always get a basic at the cost of 1 life, or if we still have Blood Crypt in the deck, we can search it up and have it enter untapped at the cost of 2 life, so then our fetch lanes also turn into a way of losing 3. And then speaking of losing 3, we've got all these modal dual face lanes, and I'm playing all the ones that can enter untapped at the cost of 3 life, so these can also maybe kickstart our combo turn. And then there's a Valakut Awakening, which I guess should be in this other section. So yeah, that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our ramp section. I mentioned being able to play Rowan on turn 2, can do that with Chrome Mox, Dark Ritual, or Strike It Rich. Then we've got the various 2 mana ramp artifacts, where the Terminus is especially powerful since it actually benefits from Rowan's discount, whereas the colorless artifacts don't. So we can essentially play this one for free in a turn where we're comboing off to just increase our storm count. And then we've got some of the 2 mana artifacts, playing the ones that enter untapped, so we can immediately tap them for mana. And then a Chandra can also do double duty as a way to generate extra mana, but can also remove opposing creatures or potentially provide some card advantage. Then in our black life loss section, we've got the combo of Thoughtseize to take away problematic cards, can maybe make the opponent discard an expensive creature and then reanimate it back, or just reanimate our own commander or some other important creature. Then we've got Bitter Triumph as 2 mana removal that can also hit planeswalkers. Feed the Swarm can also hit enchantments. Infernal Grasp can hit any creature at the cost of 2 life. Then we've got some card draw with the Night's Whisper at the cost of 2 life. At 3 mana, there's a bunch more of these sorceries like Clandestine Work and Dire Sight, letting us Surveil 2, Draw 2, and Lose 2. So these are also excellent once we're comboing off. Then we've got some card draw enchantments with Black Market Connections and Phyrexian Arena, which can also lose life, setting up a Rowan. And then we've got some more removal with Toxic Deluge to wipe the board. Dismember we can maybe cast, losing 4 life in the process, which can turn into a 4 mana discount. And then we've got Grim Tutor, which can also tutor up one of our finishers when we're ready to finish out the game. And then the One Ring can also draw us extra cards at the cost of life each turn, so it can also help set up our commander. Then in our Storm section, we've got 2 actual Storm payoff cards, being Grape Shot dealing 1 to any target for each spell that's been cast this turn, and then Tendrils of Agony, draining the opponent for 2 and gaining us 2 life. So these are the cards that can close out the game once we've cast enough other spells in the same turn. And then we have a bunch of creatures that help generate additional mana, typically when casting instant and sorcery spells. Burgi makes a red whenever we cast any spell. And then at 3 mana there's also Beo, aka Electro, making a red when casting an instant or sorcery. And at 4 mana we've got Stormkiln Artist with Magecraft generating a treasure token, so that also includes whenever we copy a spell with our Storm cards, for instance. So every Storm copy will generate a treasure. Ashling also has Magecraft, which will help improve our hands by discarding and drawing, can maybe deal 2 to opposing creatures, and finally generate 4 red mana. And then Urabrask can also make a red when casting an instant or sorcery spell. Eventually we can also transform it into a saga that can do a lot of fun things as well. Then we've got some more Storm cards, such as Underworld Breach, to replay a bunch of spells out of the graveyard, and that's also where having fetch lands is useful, as we can exile them to pay the escape costs. We've got a bunch of Treasure Makers with Flick a Coin, Seize the Spoils, making 1 treasure and drawing cards, and these are essentially free if we had a 2 mana discount. And then we've got spells that can generate additional mana. If we have a 3 mana discount, Big Score will make 2 treasures, so then we're up a mana and drawing some cards in the process. Same with Pirate's Pillage. And then there's Unexpected Windfall, which will be double red, so not quite as good. And all those treasures also generate additional mana if we have a Goldspan Dragon on the battlefield, so that can also help us ramp. And Brass's Bounty can also be quite important if we have a big mana discount, but maybe not a lot of mana left in the turn. Then now with Brass's Bounty we'll get a treasure for each land we control, so that can also maybe help us keep going. And then what have I not mentioned yet? Aetherflux Reservoir, also pretty important as both a way to stay alive when we're paying a bunch of life each turn, and then eventually turns into win condition. If we've cast enough spells in one turn, we can pay 50 life to deal 50 to our opponent. And then the Endstone, also a recent addition, also perfect as a Storm finisher that will help us draw a card whenever we play a land or cast a spell, so then we're not going to run out of cards to play. And it also resets our life total each turn, going back to 13 in Brawl, so that should also keep us alive long enough to take over. And then our other finishers include a few more tutor effects. Besiege the Mirror can also find whatever we need to close out the game. Dark Petition, especially powerful since we'll get some mana in return, so this can also net us additional mana with a big enough discount. We've got a few Planeswalkers with Professor Onyx, with Magecraft also draining the opponent for 2, so also excellent with our Storm cards. And then a Chandra Hope's Beacon can also generate additional mana, as well as copy the first instant and sorcery spell we cast each turn. We've got Bolas' Citadel to play spells off the top of the deck at the cost of life instead of mana. Behold the Beyond can just tutor up 3 cards to help win the game, so that can also easily set up a combo kill, potentially in the very same turn. Peer into the Abyss, often a card we want to search up, since we can draw half of our deck at the cost of triple black with a 4 mana discount, so from there it's usually trivial to close out the game. Villas also quite good here in a deck where we're paying a life constantly, as we'll now be able to draw a card for each life we pay. And then a few X spells. Exsanguinate can also gain us some life in return, and Jaya's Immolating Inferno can also potentially deal with opposing creatures or just be pointed at the opponent's face to get the game over with. And then our miscellaneous section has some efficient interaction, some additional discard spells with Duress and Inquisition, some efficient spot removal, Fatal Push also good with our fetch lands and treasure tokens, as well as a Lightning Bolt. And then we've got 3 ways to give Rowan haste. One of those is with the Boots, which also gives it hexproof. There's Rising of the Day, giving all our creatures haste, and legends pick up 1 additional power. And then built into our mana base, there's Arena of Glory, which we can exert to give our creatures haste, so that can also make the difference. Then we have Fable of the Mirror Breaker to improve our hand, maybe make some treasure tokens with the Shaman. There's Shieldred, which will also offset all the life loss by gaining life whenever we draw a card. March of Wretched Sorrow can also be used as removal and life gain. And then there's Cut to Ribbons, can use Cut to deal 4 to a creature, and then Ribbons out of the graveyard with Aftermath can also help close out the game, so we also don't mind discarding this to our many discard effects, so we can still get value out of the graveyard. And then I've mentioned most of the life-paying lands already, and then there's the Arena for haste, as well as Cavern to make our commander uncounterable, perhaps. Urborg can turn all our lands into swamps, so we don't have to keep paying life to our fetch lands or pain lands if we don't want to. And then Valakut Awakening, also a nice one if we're storming off and just want to improve our hand. So yeah, that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Lewis, so can deal damage on a lifelinker. Okay, we've got a functional hand. We'll need a few more lands along the way. May have to surveil to find them. But then Rising to give haste is helpful, because Mono Black is going to have some creature removal. Alright, so this can lose us 3 life. I think I start by surveilling, since I also need to get my black mana sorted. Opponent ramps. And a Dark Petition is quite powerful if we can get there. Yeah, I think I keep it. Although for now it's looking like I'm gonna play the Eruption tapped. Because I don't want to waste my life early on, even though it would be nice to have a way to easily lose life the turn we play Rowan. Medallion discounting black spells into a Maze Mind Tome. So our opponent's setting up a longer control game. Alright, so could go Signet into Rising, or just play Rising. It's not like they are gonna destroy the treasure, they might have a discard spell. So maybe it's fine to get the Signet down as well. And then ideally draw a fetch land or another dual-faced land that can make me pay 3. Could also just keep on ramping with Windfall, setting up the Endstone, since we're not really under any pressure. So Dragon Skull Summit means I can't lose life to make use of Rowan's discount this turn. I can still draw with Clandestine Work, or I can Windfall, discarding the work, which sets up the Endstone. Yeah, maybe that's fine. Could also discard the land hoping to draw another, but if I don't, I'll regret it. Okay. And we'll pass it back. So next turn I have a couple options. Opponent keeps making more mana, so they're waiting for a big payoff here when casting their commander. Which, yeah, right now they could cast 1, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, or 8 rather. So need to take that into account. Although what can I come up with? If I play an attack with Goldspan, I still have 6 mana to work with, which is pretty good. If I play Endstone, that's it for me. And then I would fall to 13, and that's pretty risky. So I don't think that's the play. Could play Rowan with haste, of course. Dire Sight. And then lose 2. Everything gets a 2 mana discount. If I draw into a land, I guess I could still play a Goldspan. And maybe go from there. Dark Petition could also do some things. Although that's going to be better once we play Rowan. So, interesting spot. Maybe I do go Rowan into Dire Sights. See what's up. Beseech and Inquisition. I think that's overkill when we have Dark Petition already. Did not find the land. Can still activate to Bitter Triumph, but at this point I'm just gonna duress. And take probably the Bloodchief's Thirsts, so I don't need to replay my commander. Since I don't think this game is gonna last too many more turns, so I don't think the arena's gonna matter. And then Bitter Triumph may be a way to kickstart Rowan next turn. Alright, another Simulacrum. Mazemind Tome draws its final card. So next turn we need to count on Lewis for x equals 11. But yeah, as long as we stay above that threshold we should be fine. Drew Ramanapa Ruins. So I feel like I should be able to win the game this turn. If I go Ruins, Bitter Triumph. Opponent draws. Activate Rowan, getting a 4 mana discount. Then Goldspan essentially pays for itself, so I could start there. Because with a Strike at Rich it actually nuts me mana. And do we have time for Ashling first? Maybe I do actually. Don't need Endstone. Dark Petition. And then get Peer into the Abyss. Draw my deck. And from here it should be trivial. Brass's Bounty, a good starting point. Play Burgi first. Any other ritual effects that I should prioritize? Can play Bayo. And then now Bounty. Discard a land. Make 5 treasure. And do we have any storm cards? We have... Let's see here. Grape Shot, storm count 9. Can exsanguinate for a bunch, but not lethal. I guess I keep cycling for now. Increasing my storm count some more. There's a Tendrils. Alright, Tendrils should do it. And then I could still Grape Shot afterwards as well if I'd like. But yeah, usually Peer into the Abyss with a bit of extra mana floating is good enough for the win. GG's. I guess I have to discard a bunch with Ashling here, but plenty of cards left in library that were not at risk of decking. This is not optional. So do have to be careful with our storm spells. Otherwise I could just take out Ashling with her own Fatal Push. Alright. And there we go. Sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Sephiroth, Mono Black Sacrifice. Our hand's promising. Turn 1 Talisman of Ancient Tomb. I will be losing a lot of life, so I have to be careful with Sephiroth draining us to death. But now with Endstone we can go back up to half our starting life total each turn. Bolossa Citadel also wants us to pay a lot of life. But I can already play my commander, plus a Mind Stone even. So I'm at 17, and we've just started. Our opponent also has access to a lot of mana here with Phyrexian Tower. And yeah, Shieldred's gonna answer my commander right away. Back to the command zone. So here I could go for Bolossa Citadel. Or I can replay my commander. And then next turn try and go off with a big discount. Which would make it easier to go Shieldred into Pillage and draw a bunch of cards. Yeah, I think I like that. So then I don't need to fetch with a Marsh Flats. I may actually want to just play this tapped. Can always get Blood Crypt to lose 3 if needed. Alright, the One Ring will protect him. But it looks like I'll get to untap with Rowan. Alright, so this turn I might get enough out of a 3 mana discount, play Shieldred into Pillage, and then wait on Bolossa Citadel until we have a little bit more life to work with. That seems prudent. I think I just fetch with a Prismatic Vista, actually. I might have to get rid of Bolossa Citadel, just keep the Endstone. So, yeah, we've already lost 3. So I can play Shieldred into Pillage. Gain some life, and Professor Onyx is looking good. Can make them sacrifice Shieldred. Can duress my opponent right now. So, yeah, that's good enough for now, unless I want to draw with a Mind Stone, but I think I'm happy to have the extra mana. So can't feel too safe at 10, but without a board presence, we should survive. And then both Professor Onyx and Shieldred can gain life, although Liliana is actually the perfect counterplay here, making me sack both creatures. And yeah, had we been able to duress them last turn, maybe we would have been able to take it. Still going to plus. Finding an Inferno, which I could cast to finish off Liliana. Is that the play versus... I can play the Endstone, play a land, and duress, which would draw me a bunch of cards in the process. And then next turn I can take care of Liliana. But in the meantime they would maybe sack the zombie to Sephiroth, draw more cards. Although keeping Inferno to answer Sephiroth is also pretty nice. So this seems fine. And then I'll just fetch a swamp. Alright, so we have Altar to make mana, Feed the Swarm answers creatures and enchantments, and a Reclamation to recycle creatures, which I guess gets back Shieldred, which can also answer Planeswalkers. Yeah, maybe Reclamation's the scarier card here. I think with Endstone and Professor Onyx we can fight the Wandering successfully. And I need my Professor Onyx to cast Immolating Inferno in the first place. Apprentice is gonna resolve. Not gonna dismember it just yet. And there's Sephiroth.
Necromancy is a lot like plucking turnips.
One ring draws. So yeah, they've also got a lot of cards to work with. So Professor Onyx keeps plussing. Brass's Bounty could be fun. Fatal Push, efficient answer. Yeah, I guess without any ways to discount the bounty, it's maybe not what I need. So, first we'll Inferno. X equals 3 is enough. Go 1, 2, 3. Don't want them drawing too many cards with Liliana.
Well, this was unpleasant.
Now I can push the Apprentice.
I do quite enjoy necromancy.
And I guess I could still play the Arena. Or Signet into Arena, even better. We'll go back up to 13 anyway. Alright, so both decks are seeing a lot of cards. Opponent's down to 11 in the meantime from Onyx draining them. Although they might be able to finish off my Planeswalker this turn.
That's it. To the detention bog.
Otherwise, Exsanguinates could be game over here. And Grave Pact is fine. Not planning on playing any creatures out. They could feed the Swarm for X in Arena. Okay, so Exsanguinate should be game. Cast it for 8.
Ugh. There has to be an answer here.
Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Ugin, colorless ramp. So, Lightning Bolt not at its best. The rest of my hand is decent. So I can maybe discard Lightning Bolt to seize the spoils. Feed the Swarm, I guess, also not at its best here. I think we still have a keeper. Turn 2 we can seize, thanks to Ancient Tomb. And then looking for more card draw spells, basically. I'll save Bloodstained Mire to get Blood Crypt, so we can lose life if needed. Alright, Dire Sight's good. So yeah, I cannot play Rowan yet, so we'll seize. I think discarding Lightning Bolt over Feed the Swarm. Can maybe deal with a larger Eldrazi. And then Rowan should be safe for a turn. Although, never mind. Opponent can actually cast Ugin next turn already. And that's a problem. So does that mean I need to Grim Tutor for a Bitter Triumph to remove Ugin? Or a way to give Rowan haste could also be reasonable. If I Grim Tutor for the boots, I can play the boots right now. And then maybe we can make something happen. Feels a bit more proactive than just getting a removal spell. So I'll keep the Blood Crypt in the deck. And then Ugin wouldn't be able to exile the boots at least. Turns out they're gonna have to wait a turn on their commander. But now I can play Rowan with haste, losing 2 in the process, so I can give stuff a 2 mana discount at the very least. And a fetch lane's a nice draw. So yeah, I guess we go for it. Start by equipping. I will be forced to get Blood Crypt if I want a Dire Sight. But that seems worth it. Even though a 5 mana discount is a bit overkill. And I'll keep 2 lanes, I think that's fine, unless I want to more aggressively dig for another card draw spell. And then just keep the Awakening to lose 3. Can easily play Villas, maybe put the boots on it. Okay, and a Clandestine Work. Can draw more. So don't hate my spot. Unless our opponent can just ramp out a huge Eldrazi to take over. So there's nothing for them to exile. And a Thought-Knot Seer, alright, that's relevant. Can take Villas. Although we have answers to the Thought-Knot at least. actually takes Feed the Swarm. Okay, so then I can take 3, lose another 2, activate, get a 5 mana discount, so I can play Villas, equip, and then still cut the Thought Knot. Maybe start there. And Bitter Triumph can also take care of Ugin, although we can just attack it to be fair. Now they can exile Rowan, but the damage has been done. Although I am at 5, so I have to be a little bit careful here. Although Shieldred can gain more life. Opponent opting for Power Stone, so maybe they are working towards an Eldrazi here. Okay, so can start by losing 2, which draws me 2 cards. Dark Ritual is always helpful. And then, yeah, 2 mana discount's probably enough for this turn. Can play Ritual first, maybe. The Terminus pays for itself. This will put me to 1, but then we'll gain more with Shieldreds. Don't think I need Inquisition, already have Bitter Triumph. Draw some more. The rest can have a look. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, fair enough. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Nethroi, so an Iabzan Reanimator deck. Hand is promising. Can start with Blood Crypts. Can maybe wait to give Rowan haste with Arena in the same turn where I lose 3 with a Trawler, so we can get a 3 mana discount immediately. Although we'll see how things line up. So turn 3. Don't think I'm gonna have to Deluge. Opponent milling a bunch of creatures already to set up Nethroi. Yeah, I mean, I think I just cast Rowan without haste, and then we'll see if they have removal, but don't expect a Nethroi deck to have a ton of interaction, since they mostly need self-mill and creatures. As we see a Naturalist, mill 3. And they do have a Doomscar in there. Alright, so I can give myself a 3 mana discount to all of my spells. Which means Goldspan Dragon pays for itself. And then it enables Unexpected Windfall to generate extra mana. Since my treasure taps for double red, I don't think I need cut. I may want Deluge in the back pocket. Big Score also generates extra mana. And we're storming off. So I can Dark Petition. Get maybe Brass's Bounty, would make 4 treasures, so it doesn't actually net me a ton of mana. We have Behold the Beyond, so I just need to increase my storm count. So anything that generates mana is good. So maybe just another Pirate's Pillage type effect is fine. Can Behold, and then basically get my 2 storm cards, so I can increase my storm count some more first. So they had some removal in hand after all. So this is 4 mana. Yeah, we should have plenty. So I can Deluge for 1. Behold the Beyond. And then get Brass's Bounty, Tendrils, and Grape Shots, or even better than Brass's Bounties, probably getting Underworld Breach. So then I could Grape Shots into Tendrils, into Breach, replay all those treasure makers out of the graveyard, and then I can cast my storm spells a second time, but yeah, we'll have plenty of damage to spare here. So yeah, pretty impressive turn 4 combo kill. And seeing the value of Goldspan alongside our treasure makers. Alright, and there we go. So I could have cast a Breach and then still have 3 mana left, so yeah, that's going to be enough to pretty much replay all of my spells out of the graveyard. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Jhoira, an artifact kind of combo deck. And yeah, don't expect a ton of interaction. We've got a decent hand to try and go off with Rowan. Turn 1, we'll just strike it rich. Could also play tap Blood Crypt. Next turn go Signet, strike it rich. I do want to keep some life loss lands to maybe enable Rowan. So we'll see if they tap out for Jhoira, in which case I probably need to grasp it. They may draw some cards of 0 mana artifacts. It's going to actually be Vivi first, another problematic creature. So probably have to take that out. Can do that alongside playing my commander. And now Boots. Well, Boots kind of incentivizes me to maybe take a slightly different approach, where I can grasp Vivi, and then I could play Phyrexian Arena, although then I won't have enough mana to play Rowan and equip Boots and play it. So maybe I just play the Boots now, and then next turn I'll be able to lose 3 with Velvet Profane. Maybe I'll even reanimate Vivi, we'll see. Cloud Key to discount artifacts, most likely. And our opponent is tapping out for the most part. Okay, so I think coast is clear for Rowan. Maybe wait on Velvet Profane in case it gets countered. Alright, So now we can equip and lose 3. I could first reanimate Vivi, or I can just activate, play Shieldred, which is fine. And then save reanimate to discount my spells next turn. And then Shieldred can punish them for drawing off Jhoira. So my hand could use a little bit more card draw, as we decided not to get the arena down as soon as possible. And Jhoira into a bear trap. And we get to untap. So I don't really need the cost reduction. Could reanimate Vivi, and then still cast a Phyrexian Arena. Maybe I keep reanimate to get back Shieldred if it does get answered somehow. And then for now we can just smash. Could also move the boots onto Shieldred, but at 5 toughness it's probably safer. Alright, Reservoir can gain the opponent a bunch of life, so they can still maybe combo through Shieldred. Jhoira's Familiar, so now artifacts get a 2 mana discount. So we'll see. Springleaf Drum generates mana. They hadn't played land yet, but they're out of artifacts. I do think I want to Surveil here, improve my draw. And then cut to Ribbons, could maybe finish them off. Either way, it's a fine draw. So we've already lost 1 life. Can lose a bit more with a reanimate on Vivi. Now we activate a Rowan. Can start by cutting Jhoira. And our opponent has seen enough already. Could have flashed back the Ribbons half to drain them, get some attacks in. Or we could have gone with Underworld Breach and cast some spells out of the graveyard that way as well. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Serah, Green-White Legends. My hand's a bit redundant in the haste effects. Yeah, it's not great. I can maybe play Rowan, and then, depending on which other ways we can lose life, set up a cheap Windfall, get rid of one of the haste cards, and hopefully find something useful. But I feel like I can do better. This is also not a matchup where I expect a ton of removal, so the double haste might be a bit much. This hand is maybe a little bit better. We've got Cut to Ribbons for a bit of interaction. A few ways to lose life in my mana base. Probably going to play Rising, and before I play my commander. Should have considered playing my Pain land first, because now with Mount Doom I wouldn't be able to play all the Pain lands essentially. Right, Loran blows up Rising. Flick a Coin can answer Loran for now. Just play Rowan. Not in a hurry to cut. We'll see if they can remove my commander. Play Serah. Counts as the first legend, so they can't get the 2 mana discount this turn. Alright, perfect. So now we can start losing some life. I could lose, I guess, 5 total, cast 3 mana Villas. That sounds kind of good. Flick a coin is free, so that can get rid of Loran. And then we play Villas, and then I can still cut Serah. Which they will protect. Let's see. I can only activate this once, so not enough to finish off Serah right now. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Kogla can fight Rowan. And yeah, I'm not going to be able to save her. That's alright, we got Villas down, which is what matters. Take my turn. So now tapping Mount Doom and Sulphur Springs draws me a card. Can fetch and draw a card. Maybe start with Shieldreds, then I can still Windfall and gain life back. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, fair enough. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Vivi, blue-red spells. Our hand's functional. We've got some answers to Vivi, some ramp. And then tutor to maybe find one of our big card draw spells. Don't expect Rowan to have an easy time surviving, but we can try. The end of turn Brainstorm. Is it followed by a fetch land? It is not. So a bit of a waste, but they do have the Abrade, sadly. Alright, now Fable looks good too if we want to play around removal. Blood Crypt is tempting, so we have double black for Grim Tutor. The problem there is we lose out on our fetch lanes, losing us 3 life for Rowan purposes. So I could also just go Mountain, play Rowan. But then, unless I can Bitter Triumph, I'm not going to be able to make use of the discount. Although they're somewhat likely to tap out for Vivi. Although usually you want to wait until you can protect your commander. So close call. I think I do try Rowan. And keep the Blood Crypt in the deck. And if they have removal, they have removal. Opponent taps out for Vivi. Alright. So now I can Bitter Triumph. And still play Fable. So that was the ideal outcome. And a swamp on top I'm not opposed to. We have Grim Tutors, so we just want to keep hitting our lane drops. Opponent's gonna return Rowan to hands. That's fine. I'm gonna discard Fatal Push, although Fatal Push is good with a Shaman Treasure. So I'm kinda happy with everything. Maybe Breach can go, since my graveyard's not very full yet, and Tutor can just get a big card draw effect. Alright, now I'm down to just ramp out Onyx. Finding lots of goodies. I don't hate the Dark Ritual to go with Grim Tutor. And yeah, opponent's already too far behind. I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Gilgamesh, Master at Arms, so red equipment. Well, we have some instant speed removal, a bit of ramp. Not a lot of card draw, just flick a coin to cycle. So that's maybe the limiting factor here, but I think we still keep. Could even play Rowan turn 2 if I really wanted to. Yeah, that may be worth it. Although we might want to check if the coast is clear with Thoughtseize first. We drew Peer into the Abyss, which is exactly what we need to capitalize on the mana discount. So, yeah, not opposed to going Talisman into Thoughtseize instead of just playing Rowan right now. And then next turn, and we can maybe deploy our commander more safely. Alright, Screaming Nemesis could be scary, and then Play with Fire answers Rowan cleanly. So that's gotta go. Can answer the Nemesis with Infernal Grasp. Now Fatal Push with a Treasure could also be an answer. But yeah, I'm just playing Rowan and then passing. And then we can push if needed, but otherwise I'll save my treasure. Because Infernal Grasp losing 2 life could maybe help me discount my spells. Opponent drew into a Lava Coil in the meantime, that's unfortunate. So that's gone. And now I should maybe just Fatal Push the Nemesis. Although Gilgamesh is close to entering the battlefield as well. Yeah, I guess that happens. We'll see if they want to somewhat sprint. Can flashback strike it rich, or I can flick a coin which draws maybe into a land. Did find a Dark Petition. Yeah, just a matter of untapping with Rowan at some points. Kellen would have been nice to flick. But I have plenty of creature removal in hand. Opponent kept on top, presumably a land for Gilgamesh. Alright, struggling to hit my land drops here. So I can maybe cut Kellen, wait on Feed the Swarm, since that can also maybe discount my spells later. And then we have Infernal Grasp in case we need to deal with some scary threats at instant speed. Alright, boots and coats. Yeah, I guess we have to grasp, otherwise if they get to make it indestructible, give it haste. We'll be under a ton of pressure. Alright, that's a lane, so next turn we can play Rowan. Although I may not have a lot of ways to lose life other than the talisman. Mirror with haste. And a drawbridge can give Gilgamesh haste. So that's gonna come down next turn. Unless I want to feed the swarm the mirror first. And then they won't be able to redeploy Gilgamesh just yet. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Wish we could play Chandra first. Which I guess I can. Play Chandra, make mana. And then I can still feed the swarm, pay the ward. Probably could have saved myself a damage here, actually, by not making red with a talisman, but using the treasure instead. So hopefully that one damage doesn't cost us the game. We are at 6, so any other creature with haste could be lethal. Opponent's digging. And that's an indestructible drawbridge. Okay, so can always Dark Petition for a specific card. Do we even need Rowan? I think we still do. So Chandra makes mana. Play Rowan, and then next turn we can maybe combo off. With Petition potentially finding a way to lose life if needed. And they have a removal spell, not too surprising. Back to the command zone, unless I want to reanimate Rowan, but I don't think we're at that stage. If they're not playing a land, at least they're 2 turns away from Gilgamesh at the very least. So I kind of just like replaying my commander. And then now we have Bloodstained Mire for Blood Crypt, so we can lose 3, get a 3 mana discount, and then hopefully take over from there. Alright, I finally get to untap with my commander, and Chandra could ultimate, which could also potentially win me the game, but I think the mana is going to be more helpful. So get Blood Crypts. Then I can lose another one of Sulphur Springs if I want, or from Talisman. Get a 4 mana discount, that should be plenty. So then the question is, do I Emblem Chandra? Or I can just gain a ton of life with Reservoir and win from there. So we'll start with Reservoir. And then I can Dark Petition, get something like Burgi. Some guaranteed more mana. But yeah, opponent scoops it up, because from here we can get whatever we want, but we already had Peer into the Abyss, which was probably our most important card. With Peer, I draw half of my deck, and then from there it should be trivial chaining together enough ritual effects and treasure makers to increase our storm count, Reservoir gaining a life at the same time, and then once we get to 50 or more we can just fire it at the opponent. Alright, so we got to see this Rowan red-black storm deck in action. And yeah, if you get to untap with your commander and just get one turn with giving everything a 3 or 4 mana discount, that can be enough to just win on the spot. So have a very dangerous commander, and yeah, overall a pretty fun playstyle if you like combo decks. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.